great to be here with you this morning. I always enjoy coming to this event. It's my favorite time of year. Usually it's cooling off. We wind up in hunting season pretty soon. So it's great to see a lot of friendly faces. You know, normally I get up here and I talk about issues that are happening in law enforcement and things that we're doing in the state, but this year it's a little different. You know, one thing I will mention is recently we reached an agreement with Equifax and a couple of the other two credit reporting agencies to correct how they were keeping their records. They were too busy making money than to go check back and make sure that they had the right debt to the right person. We started getting complaints from military people that couldn't get clearances, security clearances and things of that nature because they had them confused with someone else on their credit report. And other people that couldn't get their credit fixed if they paid off a judgment, for example. They wouldn't go back and check behind themselves. And if you got somebody on the phone and got it fixed, then you had to deal with the other two. And so it's a good settlement. We think it'll help Mississippians go forward to have better access to credit and have a clear understanding as to what their credit rating is. And so they have a free capability for 3 years to go get their credit checked. We're continuing to do all the things on cybercrime that we do. We're protecting our elderly, working in our office. But this past legislative session, you know, the legislature threw me in the mix of having to defend a lot of bills that didn't do a lot for Mississippians. We ended up with some of those social bills that were pretty clear that, as the court ruled in the district court case in House Bill 1523, that it was unconstitutional. And, you know, those issues, the legislature spent a lot of time on those. Just last week, a district court threw out the Planned Parenthood bill. You know, and the legislature fought tooth and nail over those bills and whether they were constitutional when they had originally passed them. And they failed to do the easy stuff, like building highways. Like MEC walked over there and handed them a silver platter of here's what you need to do to build more highways. Or at least just fix what we had. That's what the MEC was asking for, and I have never seen MEC put this full force behind an issue like that, and it didn't work out. I appreciate the labors of MEC and Mr. Sanderson, and I know they're going back this year, and hopefully they'll patch up that situation. But that was the easiest fix that we had of spreading out that tax. Everybody wants to fix our highways because they are decaying. I travel them all the time. That is one of the first things that you do and that government should be doing, is fixing those highways so that we can have more commerce. This day and time, unless you've got a 4-lane highway, it's going to be hard put to cite any new manufacturing in your area. That's just simple math. I don't understand how they failed to do that, but they failed miserably on that. So I hope that you will be back this next legislative session to work on that. Now, what does that also do for our economy? It gets our economy going. You know, in some areas like Starkville, Columbus, because of technology, it's come around. My part of the hills up there around Tupelo, it's been slow because of the furniture industry hadn't kicked back in. Other parts of southwest Mississippi, the coast, it's just intermittent as far as our economy. We don't have our revenues up, but when people are building highways, working people are swinging hammers, that's when the economy floats. You know, they say these tax cuts are supposed to raise the economy, build the economy. Well, it hadn't. We've fallen flat. Our revenues are the lowest since 2010 here in the state coffers. And that's why we're having all these cuts in government and government services and having all these problems. Then there's other areas that we ought to be working on in the legislature. Expanding Medicaid, for example. That's $11 billion, 11,000 jobs. That's people out building clinics. There again is people swinging hammers. It's people that working people that are making money and they can buy fuel and they can go to buy things. That's how we spur our economy and get things moving. There's other areas that you people have been, I think, the Main Street merchants, the people in Mississippi have been cheated on by out-of-state large international corporations. These tax cuts didn't help you. What we should have been working on was internet sales tax. I've been looking at what's been legal in other states that have been successful in dealing with a lot of these out-of-state corporations and how they're taking money from, like Reed's, where I've been shopping for years in Tupelo, Mississippi. They'll come in there and try on a North Face jacket, and then they'll walk out and order it over the internet to save 7%. That's not fair. They're paying taxes on the brick and mortar, ad valorem taxes, and they're paying sales taxes to the state. We're losing hundreds of millions of dollars to those, and that's a simple fix if we would get out there and do it. And I think our U.S. Supreme Court is going to uphold those tax issues. Many states have been successful at the Court of Appeals level. This is going to get to the United States Supreme Court, and we need to be in line to generate those revenues because, you know, that's just a simple one that helps our Main Street merchants out there. Now, another issue that Mississippi could do, in addition to getting our economy rolling through building roads and building clinics, is to help with education. 20 years down the road, and MEC has been on the front line of this issue of pre-K education. That if we just did that, if you look at the studies, a child from age 3 to 5, their brain development is about 85% of their brain development occurs during that period. And simply by having someone read to them increases their vocabulary. It makes them ready for school. It's the cheapest bang for our buck to keep them out of the prisons later on is just to spend the money. It's $165 million a year to implement pre-K in Mississippi. If Mississippi is going to come off the bottom of the economic and educational rung on the ladder, that is what it's going to take for us to make a change in our state is funding pre-K education. Now, you know we can't go back to the well and get into these taxes that have been given out over the past few years. You've got to find a revenue source. You can't pass that through this legislature, any kind of revenue bill. And that's why the road tax bill was killed. But the only way that I could see that's available to us is something like the lottery. Now, us Baptists, you know, we don't, you know, my daddy went to Mississippi College and my mama went to Blue Mountain, and, you know, we don't drink, we don't dance, we don't smoke, we don't lie, and we don't gamble. But I'm going to tell you this, you know, a lottery, under some estimates, would generate about $160 million a year. That's $5 million short. Now, it probably is less than that, but at least that would be something that's easy. We could go fix. And there are things that this legislature could fix. But no, they're not listening to anybody that are out here working in business. I think you're going to have to come in force to this legislature to make some changes in this next legislative session. Now, they've gotten in such a fight over there, I'm not sure they're going to listen. I'm an eternal optimist, but they have gotten their deficit in such a situation of how much that when they swept all these budgets, all these funds from all these state agencies, that was an attempt to cover up the fact that they have a deficit. And it's going to be at least $130 million deficit is what they're looking at. So they're going to have to raise revenue. And when they couldn't raise revenue for the most basic, supported across the board issue that was at the legislature last year, that of fixing our highways, I'm not sure they're going to be able to come back and patch that issue up. I just hope that they do. But if you folks who are here don't come in full force, that's the best that we got of funding our highways and doing some things that will spur our economy and get our economy rolling for everybody. Not just the working people, but for the businesses and wealthy people as well. That's how it's done. It's very simple. It's just math. You folks in the business world know that. Now, I stay off over in my realm of protecting the people and protecting our budgets and litigation, and try to conserve and keep as much revenue from flowing out to lawyers on the other side as I can. But when they pass these social issues and we lose, guess what? Guess who has to pay the other side's legal bills? For New York lawyers at $400 an hour. Us taxpayers do. And that's one of the things that I've really fought for, to ask the legislature if they're going to get over there and pass some of these bills. You know, they passed a religious liberties bill in 2014 that was where the line was, where our religious liberties were. But then he went for a victory lap and passed this last one. So I encourage you to also talk to them about some of these issues and make them think rather than pandering for politics. Pandering to people when they know the law won't allow them to do these things. They got a duty to protect our coffers, and that's what I've tried to do as Attorney General, and protect the people. I want to thank you who have always supported us and hadn't, for giving me the opportunity to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. You know, I think there's no greater job for an Attorney General than to fight for people who can't fight for themselves, and that's what I've tried to do. I've loved doing it for 13 years. I've loved being here with you for 14 years now, since I've been speaking to MEC. You're a wonderful group. You do a lot of good for our state. Thank you for being here. God bless you.